for 300 years, the Delhi Sultans ruled over a massive empire. Now, that sounds impressive, right? But with all that power came one huge nagging question. How do you actually run an empire that's so big, so diverse, and packed with ambitious people? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. I mean, really think about it. This was the one question that defined everything for the Sultans. And their answers? Well, they were clever, sometimes pretty ruthless, and they ended up shaping the history of the entire subcontinent. So how on earth did they pull it off?
Okay, first things first. To control a sprawling empire, you need a headquarters, right? A center of gravity. For the Sultans, that place was Delhi. And turning Delhi into the heart of their empire was the first crucial piece of the puzzle. Now take a look here. Delhi's location was no accident. It was a strategic masterstroke. From here, the Sultans could project their power all across northern India. It went from being just another city to becoming the absolute nerve center of a massive empire, the capital where all the big decisions were made. So you've got your capital city locked down. Awesome. But what about all those lands hundreds of miles away? You can't be everywhere at once. You need more than just a big fortress. You need a whole new system for governing. And this is where the Sultans got really, really creative. And right away, you hit the first major snag. You need governors out in the provinces to handle things, collect taxes, lead armies. But who can you possibly trust? Your own nobles? Your cousins? They might just get a little too comfortable and decide they'd like to be the new sultan. The Sultan's solution was pretty radical. Instead of trusting aristocrats who already had power and land, they put their faith in bondagan. Now, these weren't just any slaves. These were specially purchased military slaves, handpicked and trained for years to become the most elite commanders whose entire careers depended completely on the Sultan. This piece of advice right here really tells you everything about their mindset. Why would a slave be more trustworthy than your own son? Well, think about it. A slave owed everything, their life, their power, their position, to their master. Their loyalty was, in theory, absolute. A son, on the other hand, he has his own ambitions. Okay, problem one solved. You got your loyal commanders. Now for the next headache. How do you pay them and all their soldiers? And maybe more importantly, how do you make sure the wealth from all these lands actually makes it back to you? Their answer was another brilliant system, the Iqta. Let's break it down real simple. Step 1, the Sultan gives a commander the rights to the revenue from a piece of land, an Iqta. Step 2, that commander, now called a mukti, uses that income to pay his soldiers. But here's the genius part. Step 3, to keep these guys from getting too powerful in one spot, they were often posted to serve in a totally different part of the empire, while their agents collected the money. It was a fantastic system of checks and balances. All right, so we've seen how the empire looked from the top. The strategies, the systems, the power plays. But what was life actually like for the millions of people living in it? For that story, we have to look way beyond the official records of the royal court. You see, we've basically got two completely different versions of history from this time. On one side, you've got the official court chroniclers. These guys lived in Delhi, wrote histories for the sultans, and, let's be honest, were hoping for a nice payday. On the other side, you have everybody else, whose lives were rarely seen as important enough to record. This image just captures it perfectly. The official history was carefully crafted with one audience in mind, the Sultan. These writers almost never left the city. Their job was to write about the glory of the ruler, not the daily grind of a farmer in a distant village. But every now and then, we get these amazing little glimpses into that other world. Just listen to this from a 12th century Tamil text. It talks about dark children who wore bracelets of black iron or prancing about carrying little puppies. The wavy-haired Pulaya women singing as they were husking paddy. It's just so vivid. It's a whole different reality that the official histories completely missed. Now, this empire wasn't just about armies and taxes. Oh no! It was also a total crucible of culture, a place where new ideas, new beliefs, and new technologies were bubbling up and spreading in some pretty surprising ways. And here's a fantastic way to understand this change. Get this, in the mid-13th century, paper was so rare and valuable that a scholar would literally wash the ink off an old book just to reuse the page. Fast forward 100 years, and it's so common that a shopkeeper might wrap your food in it. That tells you something huge about how knowledge was suddenly becoming more accessible. This period also saw Sufism really blossom. Mystics came from Central Asia, setting up spiritual centers all over. And their hospices, their khanqahs, became these incredible meeting places. People from every religion, every walk of life would gather there, drawn to the Sufi message of personal devotion and love.
But for all of its clever systems and cultural vibrancy, the Sultanate was built on some pretty shaky ground. In fact, the very tools designed to keep control, well, they had a fatal flaw.
So what was the big problem? Remember the band again? Those super loyal slave commanders? Well, here's the catch. Their loyalty was to one person and one person only, their master, the Sultan. The moment that Sultan died, all bets were off. They felt zero allegiance to his sons. So every single time a ruler died, it sparked a potential crisis, with powerful generals suddenly free to make a play for the throne themselves.
And to make things even more tense, the sultans often promoted people from so-called humble backgrounds to powerful jobs. The sultan saw it as a smart move, create a new class of leaders who owe everything to you. But the old-school aristocrats, they were absolutely horrified. They saw it as a total violation of the natural order of things. And this quote just says it all. Can you imagine being a powerful, high-born noble, and suddenly you have to take orders from a former barber or a cook? One historian was so disgusted when Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq did this that he basically wrote it off as proof the sultan had gone mad. You can just feel the resentment. So in the end, you're left with this incredible paradox. An empire built on these ingenious systems of control. Yet it was always just one step away from chaos. A world where a slave could become a general and a gardener could become a top official. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is power ever really stable, or is it always just a frantic balancing act on the edge of a cliff?